It's been a rough decade for BioWare. After Mass Effect 3 launched in 2012, it was mostly downhill from there. Mass Effect Andromeda was rejected by fans, and then its attempt to transition to games as a service with Anthem fell flat on its face. Jade Empire from 2005 is its first stab at a big transition. This brave attempt to graft player choice and action-based combat onto its template is the studio's last game before being acquired by Electronic Arts. It was a hit with critics at launch, but sold poorly and never received a sequel. Does it still hold up over 15 years later, or has time laid bare that players were smart to stay away? Let's find out if Jade Empire is a game pass or a game fail.
Why are you asking me all these questions?
Jade Empire drops you headfirst into a fully developed world inspired by Chinese mythology. You are being groomed to fulfill a mysterious destiny as the prize student of a martial arts academy. You learn you are the last of a race destined to restore order after a 20-year disruption. But then, assassins led by an evil emperor kidnap your master and destroy the academy. You must save your master, take down the emperor, and fulfill your destiny.
Pity the world if you fail, Spirit Monk, for you are the last.
The lore and world of Jade Empire is very interesting, and we're just scratching the surface of the story based on the handful of hours we've played. It's kept us engaged, to say the least.
I find myself intrigued by the ghost tales that everyone's mentioning.
We've read every dialogue snippet and lore entry, but that's also the problem. There's so much backstory, it feels like we're playing a sequel to a game that doesn't exist. There are so many interesting events that happen prior to the game that we'd almost prefer to play through those instead. But BioWare takes the easy route with text entries and dated CGI from 2005.
No, this is my fight. Go!
The RPG mechanics you expect from BioWare are here, but in their infancy. You can't create a character. Instead, you choose from a provided list of prefabs. You do have the option to adjust their starting stats, but there are only 3 to manage. Your decisions then feed into 3 conversational skills. You can also equip gems that buff your stats further.
The forces behind the restless dead will take an interest in you.
BioWare attempts to implement a morality system with the open-hand, closed-fist scale. Despite lots of lore trying to differentiate it from binary good and evil, it's very black and white. Most of the minor choices involve getting violent or not. The bigger choices let you do things like fix a dam to end a town's isolation, or sabotage it to help a single merchant. There's not much ambiguity, and the system hasn't affected much in the early going.
The harmony or discord that you sow will weigh on your shoulders as surely as any physical yoke.
Jade Empire is BioWare's first attempt at an action and melee-focused combat system. The results are awkward, but the ideas are interesting. You're supposed to swap between different styles with their own strengths and weaknesses to create combos, but the execution is flawed. The default controller mapping makes little sense, so we had to use Google to find a better alternative, and edit a config file to make it work.
I'm sure you were holding back for our benefit.
Movement is very stiff, and double tapping a button to perform a roll takes a bit to get used to. All the nuances of the combat are rendered moot by the ability to button mash and win every fight. If you mix in the occasional heavy attack, it's made all the easier. The boss fights do feature the possibilities a little more, and it may become more demanding later on, but it makes a weak first impression.
Focus.
Perhaps the most bizarre design decision of all is the inclusion of bullet hell shoot-'em-up sections as you travel from one area to another. It's jarring when coming out of the RPG elements and just doesn't make much sense within the context of the game. While it has its own difficulty setting, it's extremely bland and each segment is short. Thanks to Xbox's deal with EA, there is no shortage of BioWare games on Game Pass. The Mass Effect and Dragon Age trilogies each tell grander stories, but Jade Empire's combat is superior if you prefer an action-based approach. The better comps are true action RPGs like Nier Automata, Greedfall, which is console only, Fallout 4, The Outer Worlds, or even Skyrim. When compared to this collection of games, Jade Empire falls well short. If you're just looking for a beat-em-up, Streets of Rage 4 does it even better. Beyond that, the Yakuza games combine great stories with solid melee mechanics. It's not a perfect fit since the early games are essentially GTA clones. Even the more recent RPG, Like a Dragon, isn't a perfect comp because its combat is turn-based. All these genres are stacked on Game Pass, so there's a lot of competition in general. Now it's time to find out, is Jade Empire a game pass or a game fail?
The time comes when you will know all you need to.
Jade Empire is a good first draft for what would ultimately become the BioWare formula. The story and lore are strong, but their hooks into the gameplay are tenuous. It's an important historical piece, but its value as a standalone game worth playing is suspect, especially when compared to the current Game Pass library. Should you play Jade Empire over the Mass Effect trilogy? Of course not, but most have already played Mass Effect, and BioWare's older games still have some merit. It's also much shorter than most BioWare games, so if you're looking for the satisfaction of completing a game without giving your life to it, there's some value. It's worth a try, if only to see how it inspires modern RPGs, but with so many strong comps available, clunky combat, muted role-playing elements, and strange shooting sections, there are a lot of hoops to jump through. Jade Empire is a game fail.
Kill anyone in our way!
For next week, the randomizer selects Monster Sanctuary.